terribly sorry for not making a video in 10 days after I committed to making a video every day this month. I don't know why I thought I was going to be able to do that. I ended February pretty disappointed, and usually whenever I feel like I'm ending a period and I'm very disappointed, I tend to promise to myself that I'm going to do something very drastic to change things very suddenly, and usually I do for a bit and then give up. But I made this step very casually of going from just deceiving myself to promising that I was going to do something publicly. I was wondering if it was going to encourage me to actually do what I said, but it definitely made me feel more ashamed, but clearly it wasn't very helpful, because I gave up on day 2, which is actually earlier than usual. So I don't think I will be promising publicly again that I will be doing things, because I don't need the extra shame if it's not going to change anything. So what has happened recently? The last days of February, I decided to completely stop looking at the internet and just spend a couple of days sitting around the house and thinking about what I was going to do next. And I actually talked a lot to my mother, and it was the most we had spoken since like June last year, and it was nice. I felt really sad the whole time, but it was very melancholic. We were talking about the kids, well, not the kids, the adults now, the people who I went to school with, and which ones she has seen in the last year, and who she knows something about and who she doesn't know something about, and what they've been doing, what they haven't been doing. And usually I think to lots of people in my situation, they feel really bad about themselves because they hear, oh, this person's getting on with their lives, this person's doing this person's doing that. But I feel so beyond that point. I don't even feel left behind. I feel completely out of the race or whatever. I don't feel like I'm behind them. I feel like I'm in a completely different area of life, so I don't even feel that shame. I just kind of feel sad, just thinking about how different they must be now. And we then started talking about therapy. I brought it up to my mother for the first time since June, and the last time we spoke about it in June, my mum was under the impression that having gone to therapy when I was 14 actually had a significantly negative impact on me, because she thought it made me think about, dwell on negative things that I otherwise would not have. And I reassured her at the time that that was not the case in the slightest. And she ended up agreeing with me, but is pretty much always the case when I talk to my mother, that she has she thinks, to me, seemingly rather randomly, that when that something is the cause for a problem, when it has, I don't think, almost ever anything to do with the actual problem, and I then try to convince her that that's not the cause of the problem, and she accepts it. But then the next time we talk, she has completely forgotten about it. But this time, I tried to explain to her for really, really long that therapy had no negative or positive effect on me. It was completely neutral. I went to see a psychologist for a bit when I was 14, and I barely told them anything, so it really had no effect at all. And I tried to convince my mother of this again without explaining to her that how that doesn't make any sense, because I'm constantly dwelling on negative things. The fact that my mom thinks that talking to a therapist would make me dwell on negative things that I otherwise wouldn't is almost is a bit sad to me, and also relieving that my mom doesn't think I'm constantly dwelling on negative things. I wonder what she thinks I'm thinking about. I guess she doesn't think about that. So I didn't tell her that, but I tried to convince her in other ways, and she agreed with me. And I kept making the same point again and again, even though she kept agreeing, just to try my best for her not to forget, because this would I don't know, bother me if my mom thought for so many years that this had a significantly negative effect on my life. She thought this was like when I started getting worse, which it really wasn't. After this, I told my mom if she could please never offer me food again. That if I want to eat, I'll eat. She doesn't have to constantly offer me things, because food for me is actually one of the things that I have the most emotional struggles with, and I've never really talked to my mom about them because she wouldn't understand it, so I don't see the point. It just seems like I could only make things worse. So I just told her, without any explanation, could we not talk about food? And I insisted a lot as well, and she agreed. And I also asked her if I could start helping around the house, and we agreed that I would start doing the bathrooms and mopping the floor in the mornings, and we agreed I would start this on the 1st of March. The 1st of March is my mom's birthday, and it's also the beginning of the month, so it's a perfect time. So the day started, and I did the cleaning, and things were going pretty well. I said happy birthday to my mother, and I talked a bit to her as I was doing the cleaning. I was asking for some advice, and things were going pretty nicely. And when I finished, I came to sit down with her in order to talk to her about her, but the first thing she does is offer me food, and this this made me feel rather angry for many reasons. First of all, as embarrassed as I am to admit this, just the fact of her offering food to me in itself has always made me angry, and I understand that anger is a rather gross anger, because it comes from a place of, I don't know what the word is, privilege, or I don't think that's the way to put it, but it's just to feel anger at kindness just shows the degree to, a gross degree of taking that kindness for granted, I think, but I'm aware that the anger is irrational, and so therefore the anger is always eclipsed by the guilt. And secondly, I was, I can't even, I think, begin to talk about how messed up my relationship with food is right now, but secondly, it made me angry because I had insisted so much the other day, and she was acting, and she kept asking me like she had completely forgotten everything. It was not like, oh, you said the other day that I shouldn't talk to you about food, but I think nevertheless, she had clearly completely forgotten. But usually, these two things in them of themselves wouldn't have made me that angry, because I'm used to my mouth forgetting everything that I say, and I'm used to feeling irrational, strong amounts of anger at completely, things I hate to feel angry at. So I'm used to keeping it together. But the thing that really made me angry is that it was her birthday, and we were having a nice day, and that I had to feel such a that I was now feeling this anger when things were going well. So I just try not to respond, and I went to my room and I stayed there for an hour until I calmed down, which is rather long. Usually it takes me much less time. And then I came out of my room to go see my mum and try to act like nothing had happened. But the first thing she did was talk to me about food again. So this time I snapped, and I don't know what the word is. I don't know if to say I lost control, or if I thought in that moment that it was okay to react like that, or what. It's really hard to retrace steps when you do something like this, but I swore at her, and she actually underreacted, and for some reason this made me even more angry, as in I wasn't even able to get some morbid delight of her reacting to my incredibly irrational sudden bout of anger. So I went further, and I just screamed, and I screamed pretty loudly, and it's not the first time I do something like this, but it's pretty rare. I did it twice last year. No, actually, last year I didn't just scream. I shouted things like words. This time I just screamed without even saying anything. And then my dad quickly came, talked to me, and asked me what had happened, and everything that he said, just every single thing that he said, made me even more angry, because everything that he said just made me feel so misunderstood. And everything, he was saying things like that it was an overreaction, and I'm like, well, obviously it's an overreaction. Like, it feels like such a strange thing to say. Obviously, do you think I think this is appropriate? No one would think this is appropriate. Like, he thinks I thought this was rational, that this was something that made sense. So, he said things that I had to be more respectful. I'm like, well, I don't think just disrespect is. I don't think I was exactly disrespectful. I mean, that's not how I would call it. I had a meltdown. I mean, that was not. Didn't say anything with the. I was not insensitive. And I just thought it was strange that, my parents are always in denial about my problems until I explode. And then whenever I explode, they want explanations like, it's obvious I always have problems. You don't want to talk in the whole year, but do you really think we're going to have a conversation now? Like, straight after this has happened? Now is the worst time to talk. So I was a bit rude to my dad. I just sort of said, I just kept saying things like, well, why are we still talking? Because I didn't want to answer any of his questions, because then that would further the conversation. Or I didn't want to defend myself from anything, because then that would further the conversation. So I just either kept quiet or said, why are we talking in a rather sort of, I don't know, dismissive voice or tone. And then my dad eventually did leave me, but now I was so angry again that I screamed again. And this time I think it was maybe even louder than the first time. And the same thing happened again. He tried to talk to me again, this time for even longer. And I kept it together, and then I went to my room. And I spent 10 days without leaving my room during the day. Just left the room at night. And I only ate twice in this period, so I really didn't have much energy to make any videos. The thing that frustrates me so much about my mum's kindness is that it always makes me hate myself, because she doesn't allow me to care about her. It all has to be the only thing she wants to talk about is food. And I can't talk to her about anything about her. So this makes me feel even more guilty for eating, and therefore makes me feel even more angry about her bringing it up. And something good that has happened from this is I do feel like I have really lost hope that my parents will ever understand any of my irrational feelings, because if after this if after so much talking she still completely forgets, and if after what happened next I left my room after 10 days, and I saw my mom for the first time in that period, and she the first thing she did was offer me food. And it was very relieving to me that I didn't actually feel angry. I just felt guilty and just like, well, I guess that's it. There's no point in ever. I can't. It would be impossible for her to ever understand me. Or accept the things that I say bother me without her understanding. So I now just have to make the choice. Either want to continue to be around the house and try my best not to, embarrass myself like this and bother everyone again, or if I should just say, well, if she's not going to respect my sort of irrational, sensitive points, and then, in order to avoid something like this ever happening again, I just have to completely avoid my parents and only leave my room during the night. So I'm not too sure which one do yet. It was weird leaving my room after so much time. I had the blinds down the whole time, so I hadn't seen the sunlight either. And it really, brunch. It really, it was really strange how my heart was beating so fast just from leaving my room. It was strange to be so nervous just from being in my own house.